The broken device. The night was quiet in the small town, but Ethan Cole was still awake. He worked alone in the old junkyard at the edge of town. Broken cars, rusted machines, and piles of metal surrounded him like a graveyard of forgotten things. Most people thought the place was useless, but Ethan believed every broken thing had a secret waiting to be found. That evening, as he moved a heavy piece of scrap, his hand touched something smooth and cold. It was not like any metal he had seen before. He brushed away the dirt and pulled out a strange box. It was the size of a small bag, covered with glowing lines like veins of blue light running across its surface. Ethan froze. The box gave a faint hum, almost like a heartbeat. He leaned closer. For a moment he thought he heard a voice whispering, soft and broken as if it traveled from far away. "Repair me." Ethan jumped back. His chest tightened. He looked around, but no one was there. The junkyard was empty. The wind moved between the piles of metal, but the voice was not from the wind. It came from the box. Curiosity pulled him in. He picked it up carefully. The surface was warm, alive, like holding a sleeping animal. Strange symbols glowed faintly on one side. He could not read them, but he felt they were watching him. "What are you?" he whispered. The box gave a low hum again, almost as if it understood. Ethan carried it back to his small workshop, a wooden shed with tools hanging on every wall. He placed the box on his workbench. The light from the bulb above flickered when the device touched the table, as if its presence disturbed the electricity. He studied it closely. The box had cracks, small but deep. Some parts looked burnt, others bent, as if it had fallen from the sky. And then in one corner, Ethan noticed wires, shining like silver but flexible like no metal he knew. "This is not human tech," he said quietly. For a moment, fear told him to throw it away, to hide it or call someone, maybe the police. But another voice inside him was louder, the voice of curiosity. Ethan had spent his whole life fixing broken things. It was the only thing he was good at. And this device, it was calling to him. He picked up a screwdriver. Hours passed. The clock ticked toward midnight. Ethan's hands moved carefully, his eyes sharp. He replaced broken parts with pieces from old radios and machines. Sparks flew as wires touched. At times the device went dark, silent like a dead rock. At other times it pulsed with light so bright it filled the shed. Once, when he tightened a loose piece, the entire box lifted 1 inch above the table and floated for a moment before falling back. Ethan's heart raced. "What are you?" he asked again, but the device gave no answer, only a low hum that grew louder. The night outside grew colder. Clouds gathered over the town. A storm was coming. Lightning flashed in the distance. Inside the shed, Ethan's eyes grew heavy, but he refused to stop. He felt as if something unseen pushed him forward, guiding his hands. And then, finally, he tightened the last screw. The device came alive. The glowing veins brightened, running across the surface like rivers of blue fire. The air in the shed shook and tools rattled on the walls. A sound filled the room, like hundreds of voices whispering together in a language he did not know. Ethan stepped back, shielding his eyes. Then, as quickly as it came, the light dimmed. The device grew silent again except for one faint pulse of light like a heartbeat. The storm outside broke with thunder. Rain struck the roof. Ethan's heart pounded as he stared at the box. He felt as if the world had changed in front of him, but he did not know how. He sat down, breathing hard. "I fixed it," he whispered. "But what now?" As if in answer, the device pulsed again, brighter this time. Then a shadow moved outside the window. Ethan froze. He slowly turned his head. Through the glass under the rain, he thought he saw someone standing at the edge of the junkyard. The figure was tall, thin, unmoving. Lightning flashed, and for a second he saw eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Ethan's mouth went dry. He rushed to the door, but when he opened it, the yard was empty. Only rain, thunder, and piles of rusted machines. Still he felt it, he was not alone. He went back inside, closed the door, and locked it. His eyes never left the device. Its blue glow filled the room, and in that glow he felt both fear and wonder. Somewhere out there, someone knew he had fixed it, and he knew deep inside that his life would never be the same again. The storm raged through the night. Thunder shook the junkyard and rain poured like a flood. Ethan Cole could not sleep. His eyes stayed locked on the strange device glowing faintly on the table. Each pulse of blue light was steady now, like a slow heartbeat. It felt alive, and the more he watched it, the more he wondered what he had brought back to life. Every now and then he thought he heard faint whispers again. The sound was soft, broken, and carried no words he could understand. He shook his head, rubbed his eyes, and tried to convince himself it was just the storm, but something inside him whispered back, "It is waiting for you." Ethan leaned closer. "What do you want from me?" he asked. The device answered with silence. Suddenly, knock, knock, knock. The sound cut through the storm. Ethan froze. The hair on his arm stood up. Who would come to his door at this hour? It was past midnight, the kind of time when only trouble visited. Another knock followed. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Not the kind of knock from a neighbor asking for help. This one carried weight like a warning. Ethan's breath quickened. His workshop was small, his door thin. Whoever stood outside was only a step away. "Maybe it's the wind," he whispered, though he knew it wasn't. The knock came again. Louder. Ethan grabbed a wrench from his bench, his knuckles white around the handle. He crept toward the door, every step echoing in his ears. The storm outside rumbled, and with each flash of lightning through the small window, shadows twisted on the walls. He pressed his ear to the wood. At first there was only rain, then a voice, soft, strange, broken by the storm. "You fixed it." Ethan's stomach tightened. His heart hammered. The words were clear this time. Someone knew about the device. His hand shook as he unlocked the door. Slowly, carefully, he pulled it open. Lightning lit up the yard, and for the first time Ethan saw her. She stood in the rain, tall and thin, wrapped in a silver cloak that shimmered under the storm. Her skin was pale, almost glowing, and her eyes were not human. They shone like stars, bright and unnatural, staring deep into his soul. In her hands she carried nothing, but on her arms were strange marks, symbols that glowed faintly like the device. For a moment, Ethan could not speak. His voice caught in his throat. The stranger took one step forward. Her cloak clung to her body, revealing strange armor beneath, smooth silver plates that seemed grown rather than built. She raised her head, her glowing eyes fixed on Ethan. "You fixed it," she said again, her words slow and broken as if English was not her language. Ethan tightened his grip on the wrench. "Who are you?" She looked past him, into the shed, at the glowing device on his workbench. Her lips parted slightly, and for the first time Ethan saw emotion in her eyes, a mix of fear and relief. "The beacon," she whispered. "It calls me." Ethan turned back to the device. A cold shiver ran down his spine. Beacon? He had thought it was just some machine, some alien relic. But if it was a beacon, then what was it calling? The woman stepped closer, her voice stronger now. "I am Princess Arya, daughter of House Eleanor, and because you fixed it, they will come." The storm seemed to grow louder. Ethan shook his head. "Wait, Princess? What are you talking about? Who's coming?" She looked at him with eyes that glowed brighter with every flash of lightning. "The hunters. They know the beacon is alive again. They will come for it. They will come for me, and now they will come for you." Ethan's throat went dry. He wanted to laugh, to say this was insane, but deep down he knew it was real. The shadows outside his window earlier, the whispers, the storm that seemed to follow the device, all of it was leading to this. "I didn't ask for this," Ethan said, his voice shaking. "No one asks," Arya replied, "but once the beacon chooses, there is no turning back." Another knock shook the air, this time not on the door, but on the earth itself. A heavy boom echoed through the storm, like something massive had landed in the distance. The ground trembled under Ethan's feet. Arya's head snapped toward the sound. Her glowing eyes widened with fear. Too late. "They are here." Ethan's chest tightened. He looked at the device, pulsing faster now, brighter as if answering the sound outside. He gripped his wrench harder, his voice barely above a whisper. "Hunters?" Arya stepped inside, closing the door behind her. Rainwater dripped from her cloak, pooling on the floor. She looked at Ethan with fierce eyes. "You wanted to fix what was broken. Now you must survive what is coming." The shed rattled as another boom shook the ground. Ethan's breath came in sharp bursts. He stared at the device, then at the princess, then at the shadows outside his window. And in that moment he realized his life was no longer his own. The storm outside was not just weather. It was the beginning of something much bigger, something that would change not just his life but the fate of the world. The storm had not ended. It had only grown louder, as if the sky itself warned of something darker approaching. Ethan Cole stood in his workshop with Princess Arya beside him. The alien device pulsed on the workbench, its light faster now, like a heart racing with fear. Outside, the ground trembled again. Boom. Then another. Boom. Each step shook through the junkyard like a giant walking in the night. Ethan gripped his wrench tighter. What's out there? Arya's face was pale, her star-like eyes locked on the window. Hunters. They smell the beacon. They will not stop. Her words were calm, but her voice carried a weight Ethan had never heard before. Pure terror. The storm cracked open with lightning, and for a moment, Ethan saw it. A ship cut through the clouds, black, sharp, and silent. It did not roar like human planes. It glided deadly and smooth before vanishing behind the storm again. Ethan's chest tightened. That's not military, is it? Arya shook her head. No human craft can hide like theirs. They come for me and for what you have awoken. Before Ethan could speak, a sound filled the air, high-pitched, like glass shattering, but stretched into a scream. The windows rattled and the tools on the wall clanged together. Ethan covered his ears. They are marking the land, Arya said. They are searching. Suddenly, the device on the workbench lifted into the air. It spun slowly, its blue veins glowing brighter than ever. Ethan stepped back, his voice shaking. I didn't tell it to do that. The beacon speaks on its own, Arya said. But it only answers you. The device projected light across the shed. Symbols floated in the air. Alien letters Ethan couldn't understand, but mixed among them he saw something horrifying. A map of Earth, glowing red dots spreading like infection. They track us, Arya whispered. The hunters follow the signal. Outside, dogs barked wildly in the town. Then, silence. Ethan looked toward the window. His heart pounded. He had lived in this quiet town all his life, but tonight everything felt wrong. Too still. Too empty. Then he saw them. Figures moved in the rain, tall, thin, and armored in black. Their helmets shone with faint red lights, scanning the ground, the air, the buildings. Their movements were not human. They were too fast, too sharp. They did not walk like soldiers. They stalked like predators. Ethan's throat went dry. There's more than one. They hunt in packs, Arya said. They will kill everything in their path. The nearest figure stopped at the edge of the junkyard. Its helmet turned toward the shed. The red light locked on the door. Ethan whispered, It sees us. Then we run, Arya replied. She grabbed his arm with surprising strength and pulled him toward the back of the shed. But before they could move, a shriek tore through the night. The hunters had found them. The door exploded inward, ripped off its hinges. Ethan flew back, the wrench slipping from his hand. Sparks rained down as the hunters stormed inside. Their armor glistened, wet from the rain, and their helmets clicked with strange sounds like insects speaking. One of them reached for the device, claws stretching out. No, Arya shouted. She pulled Ethan to his feet and slammed her hand against the device. In an instant, the beacon flared. A blast of blue light burst out, throwing the hunter back into the wall with a crash. The others hissed, red lights glowing brighter. Go, Arya cried. Ethan stumbled out of the back door into the storm. The junkyard twisted with shadows. Lightning cut the sky, showing more hunters dropping from the black ship above. They landed silently like shadows made of steel. Where do we go? Ethan shouted. Arya pulled him toward the forest at the edge of the town. Away from the beacon's light. Hide in the dark. They ran, mud splashing under their feet. Behind them, the hunters tore through metal piles, lifting cars as if they weighed nothing, their red lights sweeping across the junkyard like search beams. One beam caught Ethan's shoulder. A sharp sting burned into his skin. He screamed, stumbling. Arya dragged him forward. Do not stop. Branches whipped their faces as they entered the forest. The storm above rattled the trees, but the hunters followed. Red beams cut through the shadows, scanning, hunting, drawing closer. Ethan gasped for air. His lungs burned. He had never run like this before. But fear pushed him on. Arya slowed, pressing a finger to her lips. Quiet. They crouched behind a fallen tree. The hunters moved nearby, their voices clicking and hissing. Ethan held his breath, praying they wouldn't hear the pounding of his heart. One hunter paused, its head turning toward their hiding spot. The red beam swept across the fallen tree just inches away. Ethan's muscles screamed, begging him to move, but he stayed frozen. Then suddenly, the hunter lifted its head and turned away. following the beacon's faint glow back toward the shed. Ethan let out the breath he had been holding. His hands shook. Arya whispered, "They are not finished. They will search again. We must keep moving." In the distance, the shed exploded in a flash of fire. The hunters had destroyed it. Ethan's workshop, his tools, his home, it was all gone. The device's glow lit the sky, calling louder than before. Ethan stared at the fire, his chest tight with anger and fear. His life had been normal just hours ago. Now it was ashes. Arya placed a hand on his shoulder. Her glowing eyes met his. "You fixed the beacon. Now you are part of its story. The hunters will not stop, and neither can you." Ethan swallowed hard. The storm roared around them. Somewhere above the clouds, the black ship waited, and Ethan knew this was only the beginning. The forest was dark and wet. Rain slid down the trees, dripping like cold fingers on Ethan's neck. He and Princess Arya moved quickly, their breaths loud in the silence. Behind them, faint red lights swept through the trees. The hunters were still searching. Ethan's heart thumped hard. His workshop was gone, his home destroyed, and yet in Arya's arms the strange device still glowed. Its veins of blue light pulsed faster, brighter, almost alive. They finally stopped inside an abandoned factory at the edge of town. The wide metal doors creaked as they entered, and the echo of their steps made the place feel hollow. Machines long dead stood like rusted giants, their shapes lost in the shadows. Arya placed the beacon on a broken table. The light filled the room, chasing away the darkness. Ethan leaned against a wall, still shaking. Why are they after it? What do they want with me? Arya's glowing eyes studied the device. Because you touched it. Because you woke it. The beacon floated slowly above the table. Its blue veins brightened, and the air around it rippled as if it were water. Ethan stared in awe. Suddenly the room shifted. Light poured out, surrounding them both. Shapes formed in the air. Towers of fire, ships locked in battle, planets breaking apart. Ethan gasped. What is this? Arya's voice was low. The memory of the device. It shows what it has seen. The visions continued. Armies of hunters marched across alien lands, their red eyes burning like fire. Worlds fell to their claws. Ethan saw thousands of beings running, screaming, hiding. Then among the chaos, he saw something stranger. Humans. Not like himself, but shadows of humans, fighting side by side with aliens, holding the same beacon he had repaired. Their faces blurred, their bodies glowing faintly. Ethan stepped back. That's impossible, humans. We don't belong in this. Arya turned to him. Long ago it was told that outsiders, beings not born of our stars, would one day return. The beacon would only awaken for them. Her eyes narrowed, glowing brighter. It chose you, Ethan Cole. Ethan's chest tightened. No, I'm just a mechanic. I fix junk. I don't fight. I can't be part of this. The beacon pulsed faster. Suddenly it projected light toward Ethan. A circle of symbols appeared around his feet. The whispers grew louder, echoing in the empty factory. Ethan stumbled back. What's it doing? Arya's face was pale, her voice firm. It recognizes you. It binds itself to you. The light spread across Ethan's body, wrapping him in a faint glow. He felt warmth on his skin, like invisible hands pressing against him. For a moment he saw flashes in his mind. Alien skies, endless stars, battles he had never fought, voices calling his name though they had never met him. Then the light vanished. The beacon settled back on the table, humming softly. Ethan collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. It's inside my head. I saw things, wars, planets burning. Me, standing in the middle of it all. Arya knelt beside him. Her eyes were soft now, filled with both sadness and hope. The beacon does not lie. It shows what must come. Ethan shook his head. No, I'm not a soldier. I'm nobody. Arya touched the beacon with her hand. The hunters know the truth already. That is why they will not stop. They fear what you can become. Her words chilled Ethan more than the storm outside. He looked at the device, glowing gently like a heart that never slept. So what does it want me to do? Arya stood tall, her cloak dripping water onto the floor. It wants you to survive, and it wants you to lead. A sudden noise broke the silence, a crash of metal at the far end of the factory. Ethan spun around, heart racing. Shadows shifted among the machines. Are they here again? He whispered. Arya's eyes narrowed. She drew a small blade from her cloak, the silver edge glowing faintly. Not hunters, she said quietly. Something else. The shadows moved closer. Then a voice echoed in the dark, low and human. You are not alone. A group stepped forward, men and women dressed in dark clothing, carrying strange weapons that glowed faintly. Their leader, a tall man with scarred skin, raised his hand. We've been watching. We fight against the hunters too, the man said. His eyes flicked toward the beacon. But now, you've made things worse. Ethan's stomach dropped. He looked at Arya, then back at the strangers. He had no idea if they were allies or another danger. The man stepped closer, his voice sharp. That device, it should never have been touched by human hands. You've doomed us all. The beacon pulsed again, brighter this time, as if it disagreed. Its hum filled the factory, shaking the air. The rebels, or whoever they were, raised their weapons nervously. Ethan's pulse quickened. He was trapped between hunters outside, strangers inside, and a glowing alien device that claimed he was chosen. Arya's blade gleamed in the blue light. She whispered to Ethan, "The beacon showed us truth. But truth brings enemies." Ethan swallowed hard, fear twisting in his chest. The hunters were one nightmare. Now he realized there were more, and none of them wanted him to survive. The abandoned factory echoed with silence after the strangers appeared. Their weapons glowed faintly, strange and sharp, and their eyes were locked on the beacon floating above the table. Ethan stood frozen, his heart racing. Princess Arya gripped her silver blade, ready for a fight. The leader of the group, a tall man with scarred skin and cold eyes, stepped closer. "We are not your enemy," he said. "We call ourselves the Ashen Guard. We fight against the hunters, and we've been waiting for this device to return." Ethan's voice shook. "Then why do you look like you're about to shoot us?" The man smirked. "Because the beacon should never be in the hands of someone who doesn't understand it. And you, human mechanic, you don't," the others in his group muttered in agreement. Their weapons never lowered. Arya stepped between Ethan and the strangers. Her glowing eyes burned with anger. The beacon chose him. "Not you." The leader tilted his head. "Perhaps, but choices can be wrong. Tell me, Princess, how long before the hunters burn this world because he touched it?" The tension in the room grew heavy. Ethan's grip tightened on the wrench he still carried. He felt like a child caught between giants. He didn't know who to trust, the alien princess or these rebels who claimed to be allies. Finally, the leader lowered his weapon slightly. "Come with us. We can hide you, protect you, but only if the beacon comes too." Ethan looked at Arya. She shook her head subtly. But the hunters outside were still searching, their shadows moving through the storm. Staying here meant death. Ethan swallowed hard. "Fine, we'll go." The Ashen Guard led them through hidden tunnels beneath the factory. The smell of damp earth and rust filled the air. After what felt like hours, they arrived at an underground base lit by dim lamps. Old computers hummed and maps of alien symbols covered the walls. For the first time, Ethan saw humans working with alien technology. Pieces of broken ships, strange weapons, and devices that looked half-built, half-stolen. The rebels weren't lying. They really were fighting the hunters, but something in the air felt wrong. Inside the base, Ethan and Arya were given food and blankets. The beacon was placed on a heavy metal table in the center of the room, watched by guards at all times. Its blue glow cast long shadows across the walls. As Ethan ate, he overheard whispers from the rebels. "He's not ready. He'll get us all killed. Maybe we should hand him over." The words chilled him. He looked at Arya, who sat silently, her hand never far from her blade. When Ethan tried to rest, he felt eyes watching him. Every guard seemed more interested in the beacon than in him. Their stares carried both fear and greed. Late into the night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He got up and wandered through the base. In a side room, he heard low voices. The scarred leader was speaking to another rebel. "Tomorrow we move. The hunters will follow, but that's fine. Once we deliver the beacon, our deal is complete." Ethan's heart skipped. "Deliver the beacon? To who?" He pressed closer. The rebel whispered, "And the human?" The leader's voice was sharp. "Expendable. If the princess resists, we'll remove her too. The beacon is all that matters." Ethan's stomach dropped. He backed away, his breath quick. His hands shook as he realized the truth. The Ashen Guard weren't allies. They were using him, using Arya, and planning to hand the beacon to someone else, maybe even the hunters. It was a trap. He ran back to the main hall, his heart pounding. Arya looked up as he entered, her glowing eyes narrowing. She saw the fear on his face instantly. "They're going to betray us," Ethan whispered. They're planning to take the beacon and leave us to die. Arya's hand tightened around her blade. I knew their stares carried poison. Before Ethan could speak again, alarms blared through the base. Red lights flashed across the walls. Guards shouted, running to their positions. They found us, someone yelled. The hunters were here. Chaos erupted. Explosions shook the ground above. Dust rained from the ceiling. The rebels rushed to defend the base, their weapons glowing as they fired upward. In the chaos, the scarred leader stormed into the room. His eyes locked on Ethan and Arya. Take the beacon, move it, he shouted. But Ethan saw it now, the way his hands trembled not with fear but greed. He didn't want to save the world. He wanted the power for himself. Arya stepped in front of Ethan, her blade shining. You will not touch it, the leader sneered. Princess, you've already lost. This human will not survive the night. Give me the beacon and maybe I'll let you live. Ethan's mind raced. The hunters were breaking in. The rebels were betraying them, and the beacon glowed brighter as if it felt the danger. Suddenly, it lifted into the air again. Light burst across the hall, symbols spinning faster than ever. The whispering voices grew louder, filling Ethan's skull. Everyone stopped and stared. The beacon shone so brightly that shadows vanished. Its light wrapped around Ethan again, pulling him forward. He reached out without thinking, his hand brushing against the glowing surface. The light exploded outward, knocking guards off their feet. Arya shielded her eyes. The scarred leader screamed as the power scorched his arm, and in that moment Ethan realized the beacon had chosen sides. Not the rebels. Not the hunters. Only him. The underground base was chaos. Sirens wailed. Explosions shook the walls. Dust fell from the ceiling as the hunters tore through the surface above. The Ashen Guard rebels shouted orders, some fighting, some fleeing. In the center of it all, the beacon hovered in the air, its blue light burning brighter than ever. Ethan Cole stood frozen, his hand still tingling from where he had touched the device. The light had flung soldiers across the room, burned weapons, and silenced the scarred leader. Everyone stared at him now, fearful, angry, or in awe. Arya stepped closer, her silver blade ready. The beacon responds only to you, she whispered. That is why they will all come for you. Ethan's chest tightened. I don't want this, he shouted, his voice cracking. I'm not a fighter. I'm just... The ceiling above cracked open and a hunter dropped into the hall. Its black armor gleamed, its red eyes glowing. The room filled with screams as more followed, sliding down like shadows. Ethan's words died in his throat. There was no time left to refuse. The hunters moved with terrifying speed. One rebel fired his glowing weapon, but the hunter leapt and crushed him against the wall with a single strike. Another tried to run. Claws tore him down before he reached the door. Arya grabbed Ethan's arm and pulled him behind a fallen machine. Stay low, she commanded. Ethan's breath came fast, his heart hammering. He peeked over the metal. The beacon floated above the chaos, hunters closing in on it. Rebels fought desperately, but they were no match. Something inside Ethan snapped. He couldn't run forever. He couldn't hide and wait for death. The beacon had chosen him, whether he wanted it or not. He clenched his fists. No more hiding. The nearest hunter lunged toward the beacon. Without thinking, Ethan stood and shouted, Hey! The hunter turned, its glowing red eyes locking on him. It hissed, clicking its jaws, and leapt forward. Ethan's legs screamed for him to run, but he held his ground. His hands burned with strange warmth. The beacon pulsed in response, glowing brighter. A wave of blue light shot from the device, slamming into the hunter mid-air. The creature crashed into the wall, smoke rising from its armor. Ethan staggered back, his chest heaving. He hadn't touched the device this time, it had answered his will. Arya's eyes widened. You control it now. The scarred leader of the Ashen Guard crawled to his feet, his face twisted with greed. Yes. You see, with the human we can use it. We can rule with it. He reached for the beacon again, but Ethan's anger boiled. He thought of his destroyed workshop, his burned home, the innocent townspeople who had vanished when the hunters arrived. He thought of the rebels whispering about betraying him. No, Ethan said firmly. No one rules with it, not you. Not them, the beacon pulsed in agreement. Its light flared, knocking the scarred leader back once more. The hunters hissed and regrouped. Their red lights cut through the hall, focusing on Ethan. He felt their hatred pressing down on him. But for the first time, he didn't shrink away. He raised his voice, steady now. You think humans are weak. That we only run, that we kneel. But you're wrong, the beacon answered with a roar of light. The ground trembled as its energy spread. Ethan stepped forward, each pulse of the beacon matching his heartbeat. We fix what you break. We stand when you push us down. And when you think we're finished, he clenched his fists. We fight harder. The hunters shrieked, their red lights flickering, one of them charged, claws ready. Ethan raised his hand instinctively. The beacon's glow shot forward, forming a shield of blue energy. The claws struck and bounced back, sparks flying. Another hunter leapt from behind. Ethan turned and the shield shifted with him, knocking the attacker aside. The rebel stared in shock. Arya's glowing eyes filled with something new, pride. You see now, she said softly. It was always meant for you. Ethan didn't feel like a hero. His legs trembled, his arms shook, but he stood his ground. Not because he wanted glory, but because if he didn't, everyone here would die. The hunters pulled back, their red lights flickering nervously. For the first time, Ethan saw it, fear in their movements. He stepped forward, his voice louder. Go back. Tell whoever sent you humans don't bow. The beacon blazed, a storm of blue energy sweeping the hall. The hunters shrieked, their armor cracking, their bodies collapsing into smoke and ash. Silence followed. Only the storm outside and the faint hum of the beacon remained. Ethan dropped to his knees, exhausted. The beacon floated gently beside him, glowing softly like a loyal companion. The scarred leader stared at him with wide eyes, whispering, Not possible. No human should. Arya raised her blade and pointed it at the man. Enough. You betrayed us and you paid the price. Leave, or I will end you here. The man fled into the shadows, his rebels scattering with him. Ethan looked at Arya, his chest heaving. I can't do this alone. Arya knelt beside him, placing her hand on his shoulder. You are not alone. You never will be. But now you must understand this is only the beginning. The hunters will return with greater numbers, and when they do, the galaxy will watch. Ethan stared at the beacon, its glow reflected in his eyes. He had been a mechanic, a fixer of broken things. Now he carried something far greater. For the first time, he didn't feel fear. He felt resolve. The storm above the town had not ended, it had only grown heavier. But this storm was not made by weather alone. Ships filled the sky now, dark and sharp like knives. Red lights cut through the clouds, glowing like wounds in the night. The hunters had returned, and this time they had come in full force. Ethan Cole stood on a ruined rooftop beside Princess Arya. The beacon floated near him, its blue light stronger than ever, humming like a living heart. His body ached from the last battle. His mind was heavy with fear, but his eyes were steady. Below, the streets of the town were empty, the people long gone or taken. Only shadows moved, hunters spreading through the ruins, their claws gleaming under the storm. They were everywhere, climbing walls, stalking alleys, moving like a plague. Arya's voice was calm, though her eyes glowed brighter than usual. This is their army. They came to end us here. Ethan clenched his fists. Then this is where we stop running. The first wave of hunters struck fast. They leapt onto the rooftop, their red eyes burning. Ethan raised his hand and the beacon pulsed. A shield of blue energy snapped to life, blocking their claws. Sparks lit the storm as the creatures screeched and struck again. Ethan pushed forward. The beacon answered him, unleashing a blast that hurled the hunters back into the street below. They landed in twisted heaps of armor and ash, but more climbed behind them, faster, fiercer. Ethan's breath came heavy. He felt the weight of every heartbeat, but he refused to fall. Come on, he shouted at the storm. I'm not afraid of you. The hunters surrounded the building. From the sky, their black ships loomed, weapons glowing with crimson fire. The town shook with each strike as buildings crumbled. Arya stepped beside Ethan, her silver blade shining. We cannot hold forever. Then we don't, Ethan said. His eyes locked on the largest ship above, its dark form blotting out the stars. We end it. The beacon pulsed in his hand, almost as if it agreed. The ship opened fire. Red beams slashed through the rooftop, tearing stone and steel. Ethan shielded Arya, the beacon forming a dome of blue light around them. The ground shook. His arms trembled under the force, but he stood. When the smoke cleared, Ethan raised the beacon high. Now, the device erupted with light. Beams shot skyward, piercing the storm. The nearest hunter ship staggered, its black armor cracking. A second blast tore through it, splitting the vessel in half. Fire rained down into the streets. The hunters shrieked in unison, their voices like 1,000 knives scraping together. Ethan's heart pounded. He had destroyed a ship, not with weapons but with will. But the enemy didn't stop. More ships descended, filling the sky. Hundreds of hunters poured into the streets, their red lights spreading like blood. Ethan's body screamed with exhaustion. Sweat poured down his face. His legs shook. "There's too many." Arya touched his shoulder. Her glowing eyes met his. "Then let them come. Humanity has waited long enough to be seen." Her words lit a fire inside him. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for every human who had ever been called weak, small, unworthy. He lifted the beacon once more. "We are not weak. We are not broken. We are human." The device roared. Blue fire exploded across the battlefield. Streets lit like daylight. Hunters were torn apart. Ships cracked and burned. Ethan felt the energy rushing through him, not destroying him, but fueling him. The beacon's light was no longer foreign. It was part of him now. He walked forward, every step steady. Hunters rushed him, but none reached. Each one turned to ash as the beacon flared. The rebels who had fled earlier returned from the shadows. They saw the sky burning, the hunters falling, and they dropped their weapons in awe. For the first time, humans looked not at a survivor, but at a leader. The largest ship remained, circling above, its guns charging. Ethan knew this was the endgame. Arya stood beside him. "This strike will kill us both." "Not if I finish it first," Ethan said. He closed his eyes. The beacon pulsed with his heartbeat. Images filled his mind, wars, galaxies, and stars. He saw the same vision again, himself standing against the hunters while the universe watched. He raised the beacon toward the sky. "This is our world, and you will not take it." The device released everything. A wave of light shot upward, brighter than the storm, brighter than fire, brighter than fear. The giant ship cracked, shattered, and exploded into the clouds. The sound shook the heavens. Silence followed. The hunters below froze, their red eyes dimmed, their bodies turning to dust. The storm broke apart, leaving only the soft glow of dawn on the horizon. Ethan collapsed to his knees, the beacon floating gently beside him. His body was weak, but his spirit was stronger than ever. Arya knelt at his side, her silver cloak torn, her eyes soft. "It is done." Ethan stared at the sky, now clear of ships. For the first time he believed it. Humanity had stood, and humanity had won. Word spread quickly. Survivors whispered his name. Rebels bowed their heads. Even the hunters who remained across the stars would carry this story. One man had fixed a broken device. One man had faced an army, and one man had shown the galaxy that humans would never bow. The beacon pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat, as if it agreed. Ethan Cole stood slowly, his legs trembling, but his eyes fierce. "Let them come," he said to the rising sun. "We're ready." And so it began. Not the end, but the first chapter of humanity's place among the stars.